leading financial center, known as Singapore. This makes it a melting pot for cultures and races from across the globe, and it was here that His Holiness Hazrat Mirza Masroor Ahmad, Khalifa V, gave a historic address on the true message of Islam for the people of Singapore. At a reception event held at the Mandarin Oriental Hotel on the 26th of September, Hazrat Khalifa V first held meetings with influential political leaders and dignitaries, including Mr Lee Koon Choy, a founding member of the ruling People's Action Party, who during a distinguished career also served as Singapore's ambassador to various countries. Hazur was also interviewed by representatives of Indonesia's national media. The main event was attended by over 100 influential political and non-government leaders, including foreign consul generals, faith leaders, press and members of the National Parliament of Singapore and neighbouring countries.
Auzu billahi minash shaitani rajim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Our beloved Huzur, honored guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. May peace and blessings of Allah be upon you. It is a tremendous privilege for me to welcome you to this evening reception held in honor of His Holiness Hazrat Mirza Masroor Ahmad, Khalifa Masih V, the head of the worldwide Ahmadiyya Muslim community. We start the proceedings of the main session with the recitation of the Holy Quran in Arabic by Nasrun Aminullah Saab from Indonesia. This will be followed by translations in English and Bahasa by Mr. Ayaz Ahmad Saab from Singapore and Mr. Muaz Ahmad Nawir from Malaysia, respectively. May I ask Nasrun Aminullah to come to the stage for the recitation, please.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل يا أهل الكتاب تعالوا إلى كلمة سواء بيننا وبينكم ألا نعبد إلا الله ولا نشرك به شيئا ولا يتخذ بعضنا بعضا أربابا من دون الله فإن تولوا فقولوا اشهدوا بأننا مسلمون. يا أهل الكتاب لم تحاجون في إبراهيم وما أنزلت التوراة والإنجيل إلا من بعده أفلا تعقلون. ها أنتم هؤلاء حاججتم فيما لكم به علم فلم تحاجون فيما ليس لكم به علم والله يعلم وأنتم لا تعلمون. ما كان إبراهيم يهوديا ولا نصرانيا ولكن كان حنيفا مسلما وما كان من المشركين. إن أولى الناس بإبراهيم للذين اتبعوه وهذا النبي والذين آمنوا والله ولي المؤمنين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The translation of the verses recited from chapter 3, 65 to 69 are as follows. I seek refuge with Allah from Satan, the accursed. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the ever merciful. Say, O people of the book, come to a word equal between us and you, that we worship none but Allah, and that we associate no partner with Him, and that some of us take not others for lords besides
beside Allah. But if they turn away, then say, bear witness that we have submitted to God. O people of the book, why do you dispute concerning Abraham when the Torah and the Gospel were not revealed till after him? Will you not then understand? Behold, you are those who disputed about that whereof you had some knowledge. Why then do you now dispute about that whereof you have no knowledge at all? Allah knows and you know not. Abraham was neither a Jew nor a Christian, but he was ever inclined to God and obedient to Him, and he was not of those who associate gods with Allah. Surely the nearest of men to Abraham are those who followed him and this prophet, and those who believe in him, and Allah is the friend of believers.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terjemahan Al-Quran Karim Surah Al-Imran ayat ke-65 hingga ke ayat 69. Aku berlindung kepada Allah daripada godaan syaitan yang dirajam. Katakanlah, wahai ahlul kitab, marilah kepada satu kalimah yang sama di antara kami dan kamu, ialah bahawa kita tidak menyembah kecuali kepada Allah, dan tidak pula kita mempersekutukannya dengan Dia sesuatu apapun, dan sebagian kita tidak mengambil sesuatu yang lain menjadi Tuhan selain Allah. Tetapi jika mereka berpaling, maka katakanlah, saksikanlah bahawa kami orang-orang yang menyerahkan diri kepada Tuhan. Hai ahli kitab, mengapa kamu berbantah mengenai Ibrahim, padahal tidaklah diturunkan Taurat dan Injil melainkan sesudahnya? Maka tidakkah kamu mau mengerti? Perhatikanlah, kamu adalah orang-orang yang berbantah mengenai apa yang kamu mempunyai sedikit pengetahuan. Maka kini mengapa kamu berbantah pula mengenai apa yang kamu tidak mempunyai pengetahuan sama sekali? Sedangkan Allah mengetahui dan kamu tidak mengetahui. Ibrahim bukan seorang Yahudi dan bukan pula seorang Nasrani, tetapi ia seorang yang selalu cenderung kepada Allah dan patuh taat, dan bukan dari antara orang-orang musyrik. Sesungguhnya manusia yang paling dekat kepada Ibrahim adalah mereka yang mengikutinya, dan Nabi ini, dan orang-orang yang beriman kepadanya, dan Allah adalah sahabat orang-orang mukmin. Assalamualaikum.
Before we move to the keynote address from His Holiness, I would now like to request the President of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community in Singapore, Mr Abdul Aziz, to say a few introductory remarks.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In the name of Allah, the Gracious, the Most Merciful. Our beloved Huzur, honored guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. May peace and blessings of Allah be upon you. As we have many guests who are new to the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, I would like to give a short introduction to the community itself. The Ahmadiyya Muslim community was founded in 1889 by Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad of Qadian, India. He claimed to be the expected reformer of the latter days and the awaited one of the world's great religions. His mission was to revive the peaceful teachings of Islam and fill people's hearts with the love of God and the duty to serve mankind. On a global level, the Ahmadiyya Muslim community is now established in more than 200 countries, and it spearheads an international effort to promote education and health across the developing world, especially in Africa and Asia, as well as a global peace campaign to engender respect and human rights for all. Coming now to a local level, in Singapore, the Ahmadiyya movement was first introduced in Malaya, that is Singapore, in 1935 by a missionary sent by the second Khalifa of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community. Through voluntary community member contributions and by the grace of God, Masjid Ahmadiyya Singapore was established. The community's current mosque at Onan Road was inaugurated by Hazrat Mirza Tahir Ahmad, the fourth Caliph of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, and named it Masjid Taha. Today, the Ahmadiyya Muslim community is the only Muslim sect in the world that is united under the hand of one leader, the Khalifa, who is elected as the successor to the promised Messiah, Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad of Qadian, peace be upon him. His Holiness Hazrat Mirza Masroor Ahmad is the fifth Khalifa of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community. Elected to this lifelong position in April 2003, His Holiness serves as the community's worldwide spiritual and administrative head, with tens of billions of members spread over 200 countries. His Holiness is the world's leading Muslim figure promoting peace and interreligious harmony. Through his sermons, lectures, books and personal meetings, His Holiness has continuously advocated the worship of God Almighty and serving humanity. He also continuously advocates for the establishment of universal human rights, a just society, and a separation of religion and state. The Singapore branch of the community is small, but with a big heart. We strive to leverage our community's principles of loyalty, freedom, equality, respect, and peace to work together to create a stronger future for Singapore. Thank you.
I would now like to ask Mr. Lee Koon Choy to say a few words. Mr. Lee is the former ambassador to China, Egypt, Russia, Indonesia, and Japan. Mr. Lee is the former Minister of State for Culture and Information, and he is also a founding member of the PAP.
Your Holiness, ladies and gentlemen, Ahlan wa sahlan. This is an Arab word to welcome all of you to Singapore. I learned a little bit Arabic in Cairo when I was ambassador there, 1968, 1970. In those days, I could read Quran in Arabic. That was half a century ago, so I forgot everything. I know not too much of Islam, but I grew up in the Islamic kampung in Malaysia. So every day I hear the Quran. When I went to Cairo, I also hear a lot of Islamic influence. I was ambassador to Indonesia 4.5 years. So my connection with Islam is quite strong. When I was in Cairo for 2 years, 4.5 years in Indonesia, there was peace. I enjoyed really peace and tranquility. No riot, nothing. Very peaceful. That was the image I get of Islam. But nowadays, I see Cairo every day riot. Muslim countries every day riot. Seem to give a wrong image of Islam. Image has got a wrong in the world. The people say what Islam is connected with violence. I think that's very wrong. So I am very glad that the movement like yours will do something to correct this image, that Islam means peace and harmony with other religions. Singapore is a multiracial society. Religion is free. You can speak anything, but only if you do not want violence. So, inshallah, I hope your movement will succeed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lee. Now I would like to request His Holiness to present donations from the Ahmadiyya Muslim community in Singapore to 4 local charities in recognition for their outstanding humanitarian efforts in Singapore. The first charity is Singapore Kidney Foundation, and may I request Mrs. Eunice Tay, CEO, to receive this recognition. The second charity is the Singapore Red Cross, Mr. Benjamin William, Secretary General. The third charity is Singapore Cancer Society. May I request Marianne Tan Su Ling, please, to receive the recognition. And finally, may I request the Children's Cancer Foundation, Dan Lei Ng, Senior Executive, please to receive the recognition award. All 4 charities were also receiving 5,000 Singapore dollars each in recognition for their contributions from our community. And so now it is my great privilege to invite His Holiness to address us this evening. May peace and blessings of Allah be upon you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. First of all, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to all of you for accepting our invitation and gracing us with your presence here today. Rather than attending a reception for a head of state, a major scientist, a high-profile economist, or a high-ranking politician, you have come to a welcome reception organized by an Islamic religious community. You have come even though you yourselves are not associated either with Ahmadiyya Muslim community or our religion, and so certainly this is a reflection of your open-heartedness and high moral values. Having a relationship with worldly leaders is a way to increase worldly connections and is a means of networking. By attending a science forum, a person can discover new scientific advances. Whilst being in the company of an academic or scholar is a means to increase one's knowledge. Further, in today's world, the opinions of economists are deemed to be extremely important. This is because during the past few years, an economic crisis has spread across the globe, despite the fact that great efforts are constantly being made towards achieving economic prosperity. Although Singapore is a small country, it too is playing its part towards the progress of the world's economy. Indeed, I am sure many of you will be playing your respective roles towards this. And for this reason, you will have a particular interest in hearing new opinions or theories made by economists or analysts. With regards to politics, we find the governments and international policies change from time to time. And so people are particularly interested in hearing the views of politicians and keeping abreast with the latest political development. However, when it comes to religion, the world today does not give it anywhere near as much importance. Even those who have some interest in religious matters or who call themselves religious tend to still prioritize worldly matters. And so at best, religion is given a secondary status. In light of these considerations, it is my view that the fact that you are here to attend a reception of the worldwide head of a religious community is a great testament to your high levels of tolerance and broad-mindedness. It would be wrong of me to not express my thanks, because whilst deviating from basic moral etiquette, I would also be ignoring the teachings of my religion. This is because the founder of Islam, the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, taught that a person who does not show gratitude to mankind does not show gratitude to his Creator. And so, if these sentiments of gratefulness are not present, then all forms of religious worship are without merit and worthless. After this brief introduction and expression of thanks, I would now like to present a few points regarding the teachings of my religion. Islam provides the world with spiritual and moral teachings and exhorts people towards attaining the very highest standards. However, apart from these spiritual teachings, Islam also provides us with a complete code of conduct about how to live in society and how to conduct our social lives. Islam has provided detailed guidance of how to maintain relations at all levels, from the very basic level of the family unit all the way through to international relations. Furthermore, Islam also teaches us how to conduct our financial and economic affairs and outlines the responsibilities of a true Muslim in his financial dealings. Whilst Islamic teachings, which are given in the Holy Quran, command Muslims to fulfill the rights owed to God, at the same time they also instruct us to fulfill the rights of God's creation. This topic and these teachings are so vast, and it would be impossible for me to discuss all of them today, and so I will only focus on the economic system advocated by Islam, although I will only cover a small aspect of it. I will mention a few points which will explain basic economic principles according to Islam's real teachings. In much of the world today, there is a belief or perception that Islam is a religion of extremism and force. Thus, when I mention the economic system taught by Islam, perhaps many will think that in the name of God and as a means to fulfill vested interests, the Islamic economic model will be based on force and compulsion. Let me say at the outset that this is entirely wrong, and the reality is complete opposite. Such misconceptions have arisen because a number of Muslim clerics have not understood the true teachings of the Quran, and so they are presenting an entirely wrong picture of Islam to the non-Muslim world. Furthermore, and with great regret, the truth is that there are also some selfish Muslims, not in numbers, but they are, who seek only to serve their own personal interests, to feed their own ambitions and desires. They are interpreting Islam's teachings in completely the wrong way, and therefore have enabled various unfounded allegations to be leveled against Islam. Their acts unfairly tarnish Islam's pure name, even though the reality is that at every instance, Islam provides only rational and logical answers that are entirely fair and just. The truth is that, just as it does in every issue, Islam teaches that all economic matters should be carried out with wisdom and due consideration. Let me present one underlying principle from the Holy Quran. Allah the Almighty says, it is who created for you all that is in the earth. Thus, the Quran teaches that everything in the world has been created for the benefit of mankind. At a primary level, if a country is blessed with natural resources, then they are for the benefit of the people of that nation. However, Islam further extends the scope of this and says that we should also take care and assist our neighbors. The neighborhood defined in the Holy Quran is your immediate neighbor, your workmate, person traveling with you, and according to the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it extends up to 40 houses on all four sides. It can further be extended to neighboring cities and countries. One can realize how far this goes. Thus, where on one hand a nation reaps the fruits of the resources God has bestowed upon it, on the other hand, it should also use that wealth to help those countries and people that are in need. Such wealth must be realized in an entirely fair and selfless manner, without any form of discrimination and without greed or a desire for personal gain. If we look at the natural world, we find how Allah has enriched it with such an array of natural resources that each play an important role in the economic progress of the world. For example, we find that mountains play a positive role in ensuring economic prosperity. We also find an array of natural resources that are present underground. For example, precious and extremely valuable stones and minerals are found. Then there are vast oil reserves in many parts of the world which continue to provide huge wealth. Further, there are flowing rivers, and certainly water is the most fundamental requirement and is in ever greater demand. Indeed, a chronic lack of water is becoming an increasingly critical and desperate issue in some parts of the world. Anyway, these are just a few examples of the many forms of natural wealth and God Almighty has bestowed throughout the world. Islam teaches that all of these resources are the combined property and wealth of all mankind. Thus, all of these blessings are for all people, and so they should all derive benefit from them. These vast treasures that Allah the Almighty has endowed both above and below the earth are not just for a few selected individuals, but are for the benefit of every single person in every part of the world. Of course, there are those who invest or use their expertise to facilitate the use of these blessings and have a right to certain incentives or benefits. There are scientists who discover new and better ways to find and extract such resources and develop machinery or devices to facilitate the positive utilization of natural resources. Certainly, for making such efforts, they are entitled to some form of remuneration. Similarly, there are engineers who, having attained advanced qualifications, enter different specialities and work towards developing these resources, and so they too are entitled to benefit. Further, there are experts from various other fields who are entitled to their due shares. However, it must also be made categorically clear that no person or group has the right to deny a normal employee or laborer the due share for their efforts. According to the prevalent circumstances of the time, it is the job of the governments to provide such workers with appropriate salaries and the best possible working conditions, so that the gap between the rich and the poor can be reduced as much as possible. To provide such facilities and employment rights is also the responsibility of the rich companies or organizations that employ such workers. Unlike socialism, Islam does not say that the wealth of the rich should be forcibly taken from them and that they should only be permitted to keep a basic amount. Islam does not advocate a system whereby employer and employee are made equal. Rather, Islam says that a country's resources form the national wealth, and so they should be used to serve every class and every segment of society. The wealth of a nation should be used to ensure that every member of society has access to certain essential facilities. For example, Islam teaches that each and every child, no matter his or her background, should be provided a proper education so that they can develop into skilled and truly beneficial members of society. Similarly, there are many other facilities that should be provided equally across the board. Although present-day systems advocate the provision of these facilities, they do not to the extent Islamic teachings state. Further, Islam moves another step forward by stating that you should not only help yourselves, but you should also care for your neighbors. Thus, countries should utilize their wealth to serve and benefit their neighboring countries as well. Where a country is in need or deprived in any way, then it is the duty of their neighbor to assist them. Indeed, Islam advocates that the circle of benefiting others should continue to expand, so nations should not only seek to help their immediate neighbors, but should also use their resources to assist other poor and deprived nations across the world. Another point I should mention is that Allah the Almighty has granted different resources and forms of wealth to different countries. Therefore, if one country does not possess the knowledge to extract or facilitate the use of its own wealth, then those nations that have such knowledge and skills should assist them. Such help should be administered in a selfless manner without a desire to fulfill vested interests. Alliances or friendships with particular nations should not be a determining factor in deciding whether to assist other countries. Favoritism of any kind should not occur. Rather, the goal should be to help others stand on their own 2 feet. Unjust conditions should not be placed whereby countries are not helped until they fulfill certain demands or until they agree to establish particular relations with third-party countries. Nor should the countries who are providing technological assistance place such onerous conditions. That means the country receiving help is unable to derive full benefit from its own resources. And nor should such conditions be placed that result in the assisting nation receiving greater benefit from the resources of the other country. Such unjust acts are all against the teachings of Islam and lead to restlessness, to develop and ferment. If such a state of affairs occurs, then a time will surely come when the anxiety and sense of injustice will lead to open enmities and hatred rising above the surface. If this is allowed to happen, it will lead to the destruction of peace, both in the respective country and also at an international level. Certainly, this is exactly what we are witnessing in the world today. It should be remembered that if the affluent classes utilize their wealth in a proper and fair manner, then the gap between the rich and the poor would not be anywhere near as wide as it is today. On an international level, if all the wealth and aid used to assist poorer nations was distributed in an appropriate way, then we would not see inequality and friction between nations increasing as it is today. There are very many organizations that have been founded with the objective of providing assistance and aid to the deprived people of the world. Most significantly are the various organs of the United Nations, which have been established as a means to eliminate poverty and hunger in the world. Regrettably, we find that more than 60 years after the formation of the United Nations, the poor countries remain destitute and deprived, whilst the developed countries have remained rich and powerful. Islam has explained that a fundamental cause of this permanent inequality is that the world has not understood the wealth of resources granted to mankind by God is for the combined use of all humanity. In today's world, it is not only in the less developed world that people are struggling, but even in the developed world, people have suffered as a result of the financial crisis that has arisen over the past few years. This is because countries have not used their vast means and resources in the right way. Instead of utilizing their wealth for essential necessities to benefit all people, much has been frittered away on unnecessary luxuries and extravagances. We see the result of this in Europe, where some countries who were not as rich as some of their European counterparts tried to imitate their wealthier neighbors. Rather than tread conservatively, they went beyond their means to try and fulfill such unrealistic ambitions and are now suffering the consequences. whilst the other members of the European Union have sought to help them to a certain extent. Even they are now starting to question and consider that for how long they should continue to help the weaker nations. We find that the root causes for the problems and the growing friction emanates from both sides. On the one hand, those requesting help have made unreasonable demands, whilst on the other side, the wealthier nations have not been willing to make necessary sacrifices for the greater good. Both of these factors have led to a marked deterioration in current situation. Islam, however, counsels that the best state of affairs, which are of peace and harmony, can only be established when both sides work together for the greater good. The poor must fulfill their own responsibilities and work hard in order to benefit from their resources and wealth. On the other hand, the rich should happily display a true spirit of sacrifice in order to help their brothers and sisters. They should understand that their wealth and resources have all been bestowed by Allah, and so they must be utilized to fulfill the rights of His creation. Most regrettably, such ideals are not being implemented in the Muslim world today, to whom these teachings were given, and nor they are being practiced in the non-Muslim world, who make huge claims of fulfilling the rights of people. Indeed, even in the developed countries, there are hundreds of thousands of people who are suffering from hunger and poverty. In conclusion, I should say that this is an extremely vast topic, and I have only covered a very small aspect of one part of this huge subject. Certainly, there is an essential need for the world to pay heed towards fulfilling the rights of one another. The world has come to resemble a global village. And so, if we fail to discharge each other's rights, then the unrest that has already taken root would ultimately lead to extremely dangerous and devastating consequences. If we look back at history, we realize that a major factor that led to the first two world wars was the prevailing economic situation. And this part of the world where you reside was also caught in its effect. If such circumstances were to prevail again, it would be extremely difficult to predict who would be safe and who would be in danger. We can only pray and present the facts and realities in front of everyone in an effort and hope that the world can be saved from all forms of destruction and danger. This is essential so that we are not looked upon with anger and as transgressors by our future generations. Before ending, I would like to once again thank all of you for taking the time and effort to attend today. May Allah bless you all. Thank you very much. Please, according to our tradition, on our formal functions, at the end of the function, we offer silent prayer. So I will offer silent prayer. Everybody can pray in their own way. Please, silent prayer. Ameen.
Tonight I began to listen to the real words of Islam, that is tolerance. At the present moment we can have to see like too many hatred, too many things that are going on in this world, people killing each other. But if you understand the real teaching of Islam or any other religion for that matter, the fundamental is it is all about peace and harmony.
From what I'm hearing from this great man is talking world peace, promoting peace, and this is what we all should be doing, and I really admire him for standing up and talking openly about it and quoting from the great book of Quran. It really makes sense. As a non-Muslim, I am a Christian myself. Coming from Papua New Guinea, it is predominantly Christian. This is really in line with what we also preaching in the Holy Bible there. So it's really, they all make sense, and it's really very encouraging for world peace.
ما كان